Invest in yourself, learn some of the soft skills, get a better rounded person. And in 2021, invest in training in your soft skills. And I think that will help you for the rest of your career to become a better leader.
Coffee's for closers only.
So we've established my proposal is sound in principle. Now we're just haggling over price.
Let's see how much we're going for on eBay.
Man, it's the same as Dunkin' Donuts. Costs 15 times the price.
Welcome to Impact Pricing, the podcast where we discuss pricing, value, and the strategic relationship between them. I'm Mark Stiving. Today our guest is Stephan Liozu. And here are three things you want to know about Stephan before we start. He is the Chief Value Officer at Thales. What a fabulous title. He's an adjunct professor and research fellow at Case Western Reserve University, and he has a PhD in pricing, even though there's no such thing. Welcome, Stephan.
Hey, well, thanks for having me again on the podcast.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. So just like you, I have a PhD in pricing that even though it doesn't exist, so it's okay, right?
Yeah, I think we can say that. We do have a PhD, but it would be too long.
Right, exactly. So you were on in June last year, episode 74. We covered some of the easy questions. So let's jump into the hard stuff. And today we want to talk about pricing in the C-suite.
Yeah.
And so,
Wow.
So what do you think is the big issue for pricing in the C-suite? Is it getting them excited? Is it getting them involved, engaged?
Well, let me start by saying, a vast majority of people in the C-suite got there because they're smart. They have a good experience. They get the business side of running a business, and so what we have not done as a pricing profession is educate them and get them to know really how pricing can help them with driving profitability, and improving customer experience and satisfaction and all that good stuff. Now, obviously, because of that general lack of education and maybe misunderstanding, pricing is not very often on the radar of these people. They typically go to the usual suspect: cost improvements, acquisitions, cash flow management, all that good stuff that we know, supply chain, and now digital transformation. And pricing is really far away from the top 10 priorities in the C-suite. But I wouldn't say that I would blame them for, not embracing pricing, because most of them, based on my research, do not know much about pricing.
So I would say, first of all, I love what you started with, that most people in the C-suite are really smart people. They work hard. They got there for a reason. Mm-hmm. Maybe there was some luck involved, but there was a lot of skill involved to get there. Mm-hmm. So I absolutely agree with that. And yet it seems so obvious to me that pricing is important. The revenue side is important. And it seems like they know that too. There's something else that keeps them from wanting to do pricing.
So, for a lot of them, they still consider pricing as a very tactical and granular activity. And most of the time when I speak with a C-suite executive, they will tell me, I look at growth, I look at sales revenue, I look at gross margin, profit margin, and pretty much I delegate to other people when I have to understand what's in the details. Generally the CFO, VP of sales, chief commercial officer. And they don't really understand what's under the hood, as far as all these techniques and methods and concepts, because there's so much we can pay attention to, right? And it's, in a way, it's understandable, but on the other side, it's a shame because we're not realizing the full impact of some of the methodology and the techniques that have been around for 40 years that are truly transformational.
Yeah, it seems to me like some of the decisions they have to deal with, digital transformation, right? Huge strategic decision. They've got to get the whole company focused and let's go make a big change. But then they spend a lot of time thinking about costs, which to me feels way more tactical than pricing feels.
Yeah, and in a way, it's in the DNA. I mean, it's easy. It's right there. They do that most of throughout their career, I would say, they look at cost. Now, don't forget that lots of C-suite executives, CEOs, and likes came through finance, came through manufacturing, and in the industrial sector, they are CTOs. So frankly, there are not that many CMOs and CCOs that become CEOs. So it is very driven by cost improvement, cost optimization, even cash flow optimization, tax optimization. When it comes to the subject of commercial optimization and marketing, excellence, not many of them are fully educated in the topic. Now, obviously, they understand it because they've been working a long time with marketing people. But if I don't think they understand all these concepts and techniques of CPQs and price sensitivity and all these segmentation. So and it goes back to us as a profession, reaching them to make it very easy for them to understand, especially now in the context of COVID-19 and what happened in the over the last year. The name of the game is changed. So we have to take the responsibility as a profession, not organizing ourselves enough, not publishing enough as a profession, not educating the C-suite enough, and I think we got to get to the point where we do it.
So let me toss out an alternative hypothesis, and I'm not going to disagree with what you've been talking about, and we'll come back to this in a second. But you've been saying essentially that the C-suite isn't aware of the power of pricing. Do you think it's possible that they're aware, but they have no clue how to go about fixing it? Because it's such a big problem. It's all pervasive across the entire company.
Well, I mean, I don't have any scientific evidence of, how many are educated, how many are not aware, but I think generally speaking, they are very smart people. We understand when you tell them, they understand. This is why, lots of companies do hire pricing consultants, and generally speaking, when there is one of these big names doing a strategy project or doing a organizational design project within the C-suite, they'll hear some of the pricing components coming in, and maybe there's going to be a pricing project to follow. So again, I think when they get it, and lots of companies, as you know, are doing great pricing transformations. They are doing pricing projects, they are putting CPQs and price optimization systems. So it's not like no one does it. What's missing is that impetus, that realization, and that change of mindset in the C-suite that say, hey, we're going to take it seriously, we're going to do it.
Okay, so let's go into how do we educate and get them up to speed. But it's kind of curious to me because people like you and I, we really want executives to embrace pricing, the power of pricing, and the fact that we can go transform companies if they understand this better and focus on it. Mm-hmm. But when I think of a pricing person inside a company, I don't see them as the people trying to educate or inform the C-suite.
Yeah, and that's very unique, I would say. Because if you look at the pricing community that you and I, engage with every day, first of all, you don't have that many, high-level VPs of pricing. VPs of pricing, that pricing in the vast definition that includes commercial excellence, generally speaking, analytics with it, some aspect of marketing. So not that many. And you look at the PPS numbers, I think it's in this, single digits, the number of pricing teams led by the VP reporting 1 or 2 levels, 3 levels down the C-suite. So generally speaking, these positions are directors or managers, and these they're too far away from the C-suite. And in between them and the C-suite, there is, definitely some prioritization and bottlenecking. And I think, despite, the energy that many of these people put in, creating transformation projects or proposals, and they don't reach the C-suite. Because, frankly, when there is a CMO with multiple avenues for investments, they're going to make decisions before they move them to the C-suite. So I don't think we get that many, moment of truth where a VP of pricing or director of pricing is invited in the C-suite to make a 20-minute presentation on the impact of it, right? And generally speaking, there's a lack of relay in the C-suite, direct relay to be able to carry the voice of the pricing organization. So it is an issue, and I've been blessed, like you. I do research, and I've been blessed in speaking with lots of very, very talented VPs of pricing that do have that direct relationship with the CEO or CFO, and that changes the game. You look at the most successful transformation, that you hear at PPS conferences. The CEO sits down with the VP of pricing every quarter and see what and engages with them. So that is a game changer when you get to that situation. Until then, you're at the mercy of someone deciding yes or no. I'm gonna put you in the C-suite.
Yeah, so let's talk about the book for a second as we come back to what we want to do with the C-suite. You gratefully invited me to write a chapter for your new book that's coming out, and so what is the book, and what's the purpose?
So the book, the book idea came up, after you've seen some of the papers I published around the state of the pricing profession, the state of the software pricing space, and try to kind of understand how well have we done for the last 10 years, right? From the 2010 when Kevin Mitchell came out and said, only 5% of Fortune 500 companies have a pricing team. Well, I wanted to see if it's true or not, and so I did a lot of research, and yes, we've improved, and it's not 5%, it's 15% of very large industrial companies, and around 20% of global Fortune 500 company. Good progress, but not enough clearly. Which means, on the other side, 80% of global Fortune 500 do not have a pricing team, and then who does the pricing then? Right? That's my simple question. So I hypothesized that the issue is in the C-suite. They have to make decisions. They lack the understanding. They don't know enough about pricing. And then I started engaging in interviews with, the heads of pricing software companies and CEOs, and realized that indeed there's a lot of misconceptions, and they're not fully aware of the ROI. It's not very clear to them what pricing is, who does it, what does it mean to do pricing projects. And based on that, I launched the Coalition for the Advancement of Pricing, which is a community on LinkedIn, and started to think about writing a book from the profession to the C-suite. And I pitched the book to many companies, the software vendors, consulting companies, experts, academia. And then we're going to have a book coming out this year with about 20 chapters for the C-suite.
Nice. And the idea is to convince the C-suite pricing is important, or is it to teach them how to do pricing? What's the real objective? So
the first objective is to really show them the impact. Once and for all, let's put that discussion to rest. So there is going to be lots of chapters on impact, showing case studies, showing statistics, and that will be good, because there's still a lot of discussion in the C-suite. Is it worth the effort? Are we going to get the impact? So that's the number one topic. Number two is.
So let me pause you for a second, Stephan. Doesn't everybody just get the 1%, 10% rule?
They do get, they read it, they understand it, but show me the money. At the end of the day, it's a question of, is that going to be applied to us? And, and they don't fully believe it. And frankly, the feedback that I got from my research is that we don't make the best ROI calculations as a profession. So we have to improve on that, including risk management, scenario planning. So there's a bit of lack of expertise there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and then the second purpose.
So the second purpose is really to address the myth and the lack of understanding. So we have, papers around, what pricing is now, especially post-COVID, what it can do for you, why do you need it? And so we're going to have, papers from the best strategy consultants out there. And obviously they carry more weight than you and I together. So because we engage with the C-suite on a regular basis. And then we're going to talk about the third objective, and to show them what capabilities do you need to really do good pricing projects. And I think it's important for them. I don't expect C-suites to do projects themselves or to have pricing reporting into the C-suite, But when they're going to do projects, what do you need to pay attention to? And the usual suspect, Salesforce compensations, having the right organizational culture in place, all that stuff. Most of the time, because we consider pricing as a clerical, tactical, function, they don't understand that aspect of strategy, the connection with sales, the culture in general. So we're going to have lots of different chapters that will address these three topics, and hopefully, because it's coming from the profession, right, and not one person or someone who has not done enough research, or the message is stronger.
Well, let's hope so. Right. Yeah. So one of the things I find fascinating is, well, first off, your title, Chief Value Officer, and most people, when they think of pricing, they think of that tactical, I need to put a number on a product type thing, where when we think of pricing, we think of creating, communicating, capturing value, all of these different pieces. And so it feels to me like that's such a big deal for executives to truly grasp.
Yeah, so and this is one of the misconceptions that we have to help them understand. The definition of pricing. It's going to vary from company to company, from executive to executive, and it really, as you know, it depends on where you are in the maturity model. It depends on your marketing maturity. It depends on your customer intimacy maturity, and what problems you're facing. So, I on purpose didn't want to be called the chief pricing officer, because pricing in Thales is going to be much more tactical. And what we needed was more around value management, understanding our differentiation, conducting segmentation, value propositions, and all that good stuff. So I wanted to be much more on the value side and much less on the pricing side. And, depending on your history in your company, maybe pricing has a baggage. So maybe you don't want to put pricing in your title. So that's a reality of things. But for us, we went with value. I think it worked very well. We're still doing quite a bit of pricing work, but for the last 4 years, I've been in Thales more than 4 years now. We've done maybe 60-70% of the work is on value management.
Yeah. Well, and that's how I think of pricing more than anything else. I think of it as value, and how do we understand value and communicate value, and all of those pieces. So in the Fortune 500 world, those that have pricing organizations, it seems to me that they have to act like internal consultants. And when you get to smaller companies, companies with pricing teams probably actually do more pricing, hands-on work. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Yeah. So when you get to the level of directors and VPs of pricing, or whatever the title is, I think probably 20% of your work will be tactical analytics, understanding the deliverables and all that good stuff. But 80% will be evangelizing internally and building coalitions and communicating up, sideways, down. And you have to be like a Swiss knife. And you have to understand emotional intelligence, change management. You have to be able to speak one day to the CFO, the next day to an IT person, then to a pricing analyst. So it's really a unique breed of leadership that, frankly, we don't see enough. And and one of the books that I wrote was, as you know, the pricing and human capital. And I spoke with about 12 VPs of pricing, and how did they become VP of pricing? And most of them came from sales, from the business side, from marketing, and they have that ability to speak several languages and to evangelize within, to do what we just talked about, pitch to the C-suite, make them understand in simple terms why we need to do customer segmentation, the importance of integrating everything within the commercial excellence, area, and not just looking at charts and graphs and Paretos. And this is not what the VP of pricing does. And unfortunately, we don't have enough of these high caliber VPs of pricing in these organizations.
Yeah. So I'll confess, I haven't read that book yet, Stephan, but when I think of pricing people, I actually think of three key components, and I'm sure you're going to tell me there's 7 or something, right? But I think of the analytics or the number side. I think of the strategic side, and then I think of the leadership side. And I think that leadership piece is the hardest of all for pricing people to get their arms around, to be able to go do. And that's the communicating up, down, sideways with everybody.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. You're right, and this is all part of the soft skills, right? I mean, you've written a lot about soft skills, and I'm trying to convince a lot of the pricing people to invest in themselves and develop these soft skills and be able to tell stories and be able to understand the social fabrics of their organization, who does what. This is kind of a sixth sense that we need to have, and at the same time we need to understand how to run regression and all these quantitative methods. And it's unique. It's unique, but we need more of them. And one of the things that I got from the feedback from my research is a lot of C-suite people look at their organization and they tell me, I don't think that I have the right caliber of executives to run these projects. Meaning exactly what we talked about, being able to handle the soft side and the hard side of pricing, but also getting the sales force on board, getting supply chain on board. And sometimes they say, well, I don't think we're going to do it. I would love to do it, but I don't have the time and the money to hire 10 people, and I have no one inside that could do it. And that resonated with me when I got these answers.
Yeah. And so is there a chapter on that in the book? How do we convince them or help them find the right people to do this?
Yeah, there is going to be a couple chapters, dealing with capabilities and strategic capabilities from the hard and the soft side. But we can't deal with everything in one book. But I think we're gonna plant the seeds, and we're gonna have I think an awesome review of all the key components that and the key messages we want to push forward. And then it's a question of us as a profession to send books up to the C-suite for them to read it. I think more than that, it's going to be difficult to do, but I think it'll be for me an objective that I always wanted to do. As you know, and you and I are evangelists. We push pricing day in, day out, and I think we need, as a profession, to better promote ourselves and to start coordinating the messages that we have. That's what I'm blessed that you jumped on the book project, and we have your contribution in it.
Oh, thanks. I think the book is a great idea. I actually think we're going to have a real challenge getting executives who aren't already committed to pricing reading the book.
Well, yeah. So what usually happens, they get a book and they give it to their CFO or they give it to their CMO, but that's fine. At the end of the day, as long as someone in the C-suite reads it. But in parallel, I'm also publishing papers, in different, journals with the same subject. And we see, so it's not just one book. It has to be a multiple approach to it. It has to be blogs. It has to be a podcast. It has to be, we have to find a way to reach them. But, frankly, either we do nothing or we try our best to do something and influence. And for us, I mean, it's not like, it's going to change our life as far as income is concerned, but my interest is really to get pricing much more on the radar and much more adopted, like other functions, like supply chain and analytics these days. And it is a mission for me. I took it as a personal mission to really educate and get into the C-suite to make a difference.
Nice. And it's good that we have people like you that really want that as a mission, right? You're driving it, you're pushing it. I love that. My mission is to help companies succeed. I like watching them succeed. And when they take my advice and are successful, that makes me super happy.
Yeah. And success for the company means success for people's career and personal income and satisfaction. And, you and I spend quite a bit of time with pricing professionals, and it's not a very easy job every day. And so we want to make their lives easier, and we want to, make them succeed as well.
Yep. Absolutely. Stephan, we're going to have to wrap this up. This has been fascinating though. But we got to end with the last question. What's one piece of pricing advice you'd give our listeners that you think could have a big impact on their business?
Well, I would say right now, invest in yourself, learn some of the soft skills, get a better rounded person, and in 2021, invest in training in your soft skills. And I think that will help you for the rest of your career to become a better leader.
I'm glad you answered that way. And I think it's a brilliant answer. What do you think they could do? How could they invest in soft skill improvement?
Well, right now it's a lot of different courses, whether on LinkedIn Learning or Pricing Society or you name it, the Khan Academy, and and look at what your personal weaknesses are, as far as, is it communication, is it convincing others, is it understanding social interactions, and get a course. I just designed a few courses on LinkedIn for the Thales side, and various courses on influence without authority, various courses on change management. And those are easy courses that you will learn some of the things that you need to do to get other people in the organization to listen to you, to believe you, to go with you into battle. And those are for you, will make a difference in your daily life.
Those are absolutely brilliant suggestions. Thanks, Stephan.
Thank you.
And thanks for your time. If anybody wants to contact you, how can they do that?
Well, the best way is to connect with me on LinkedIn, and then to send me a DM, and I'll gladly exchange with you. Or you could join the CAP Coalition for the Advancement of Pricing. It's a group on LinkedIn, and we have discussions around the profession. So join us.
Nice. Thanks, Stephan. All right, episode 111 is all done. Please take a moment to leave us a review on whatever platform you use. And I would be extremely grateful if you go through the effort to figure out how to do it on Apple Podcasts. They don't make it easy, but it would be awesome for our podcast and to reach other listeners if you would. And finally, if you have any questions or comments about the podcast or about pricing in general, feel free to email me, mark@impactpricing.com. Now, go make an impact.